Welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. Generally like to talk a load of bollocks, tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about an expansion for one of the most epic board games ever created. We're going to be talking about the Prophecy of Kings expansion for Twilight Imperium 4th edition, and this is an all-in expansion, so you're going to have to chuck everything in. Adds loads and loads of shit to an already expansive game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of what shit they've chucked into this box. We tell you what we do like, what we don't like. Then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Prophecy of Kings is worth adding to your copy of Twilight Imperium 4th edition today, or maybe in the future. So remember, if you are new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. And we'll see you after this. Bollocks! So, Prophecy of Kings, how'd you play this expansion? So Prophecy of Kings is an expansion for Twilight Imperium 4th edition. It's an all-in expansion. It's not like the Shards of the Throne and the other one that I can never remember the name of for Twilight Imperium 3rd edition, where it's sort of modular. You could pick and choose what shit you left in and what shit you left out. Just going to quickly go through what extra stuff you get in this expansion. The first and probably the most important thing for a lot of people is the extra 7 races that you get in a box. You got the Argent Flight, you got the Empyrean, the Mahakt Gene Sorcerers, the Nars Roka Alliance, the Nomad, the Titans of Ol, and the Vu'il Wraith Cabal, right? Each one of these has their own special ability. They've each got their own faction-specific technology. In fact, they've got 2 of them that they can research. And it adds a load of extra options to the game. So the next thing that is added to the game is the appearance of leader cards, right? These cards go onto a little sideboard that slots onto the other side of your player board, right? There's 3 different types of leaders. You've got agents, which can be exhausted to use their ability once per round. You've got commanders, which have to be unlocked. The card will tell you what they do, and each one of these commanders has their own specific ability. And then you've got heroes, which give you an absolutely phenomenal game-breaking ability that can be used once per game, and then they have to be purged or removed from the game, right? You'll be pleased to know that mechs make a welcome return. Each one of these mechs is faction-specific, so each race is going to have mechs that do something completely different. They act like ground troops. They can invade and take control of planets, and you'll buy them using the production step of the tactical action, much like you do ground units and all the other ships and all that shit. So you've got pieces included for 7 and 8 players. I don't know anybody that would want to play this with 7 or 8 players, but if you do want to play it with 7 or 8 players, the pieces are there. One of the bummers about this is that the pink cards are kind of similar to the red cards, so it's a little bit difficult to tell which is which when you're dishing out the faction specific components, yeah? But there is an orange faction, so all you ginger nuts out there will be happy to know that you are being looked after, right? So you get a load of new systems to chuck in. There's 16 regular planet tiles. You've got these things called legendary planets. If you take control of them, you'll get a card and they will give you special abilities. You've got a couple of anomalies. You've got an extra supernova in there, and you've got an alpha system in there. There is a wormhole nexus tile that you'll have to discover, and that will open up, I think it's like a gamma wormhole or something like that. And you've got the Muat supernova for the Muat faction, right? There's 8 new basic technologies to research. 2 of each type, right? The dark energy tap is the standout new technology. This will allow you to explore frontier tokens. These are tokens that are placed on empty systems. So if you've got a dark energy tap, you'll be able to trundle along there in your old jalopy spaceship and pick them up for a nice little bonus. You've also got exploration. When you take control of a system that's got no existing ships on it, either yours or your opponent's, you'll be able to look at that type of system, draw an exploration card, and that will give you either a nice little bonus, or you might find a relic shard. If you've got 3 relic shards of the same type, you'll be able to trade it in via an action for a relic card, which more often than not are really, really good for you, right? Bit like sort of interstellar bran flakes. There's also hyperlanes included in the box, right? If you're playing with an odd number of players, say 5 or 7 players, you can stick in these hyperlanes, and this will ensure that the 2 players that ordinarily wouldn't be adjacent to each other are now going to be bricking it, because the Embers of Muat, who start with a war sun, are now on your doorstep ready to shit in your letterbox. So there's a few other rule changes. You've got extra bits like capture. You can capture your opponent's units. There is 2 revised strategy cards. The diplomacy strategy card now says that you can ready any 2 exhausted planets rather than all the planets in the system you control. And the construction strategy card has the same abilities, but it's got different wording used to help dispel rules confusion that some thickos out there didn't understand. So that's about it. That's about all you're going to get in this expansion. Doesn't seem a lot when I talk about it in 5 minutes, but when it's on the table. Looks like you're staring into the Milky Way. Not the chocolate bar, right? But like the galaxy thing that we're all spinning round on, allegedly. So what do we like about Prophecy of Kings expansion? So the first thing that we really like about this expansion is that it adds loads more stuff without adding any more complexity to the proceedings. The rules haven't really been broadened or made more difficult to fathom, right? Okay, there's going to be a lot more stuff on the table. It's going to look overwhelming when you first dig this expansion out, but there's not really any more rules. It's just variations on a theme of stuff that's already there. Like for instance, the exploration cards might see you find a volatile fuel source, which means that if you have at least one mech on this planet, or if you remove one infantry from this planet, you gain a command token, which could save your bacon in an abattoir style emergency. Or if you trade in those relic fragments, you might be able to grab the obsidian relic, and it says when you gain this card, draw one secret objective if you have an additional one scored or unscored objective, because ordinarily you only be able to have 3 of these, but this allows you to have 4. That could be game changing for you. Plus, if you add to this the simple notion of the legendary planets, you might be able to find Malice, and it says you may exhaust this card at the end of your turn to gain 2 trade goods or convert all of your commodities into trade goods. And Malice just happens to be in the wormhole nexus, right? It's an extensive expansion that doesn't add too much extra brain numbery into the mix. So the second thing that we like about this is that the extra content gives you more scope for storytelling. Twilight Imperium's got a history of sort of spinning its own yarn, but with the advent of things like commanders, legendary planets, and all of the extra technologies and that, the opportunity for a more diverse narrative as a game progresses is increased tenfold, right? Like for instance, the last game that we played, I was the Ghosts of Kraos, and I had this commander ability that I had unlocked that allowed me to swap positions of 2 systems. I could see my mate Steve lurking in the shadows around Mechatol Rex, ready to pounce, and I switched Mechatol Rex with a system that was near the wormhole to my home planet, right? And yeah, it shocked the world, right? Everybody at the table sat there in awe of this event, right? So this expansion gives you more opportunities to create those memorable moments that whenever you play this, you'll come back to again and again, right? So the final thing that we like about Prophecy of Kings is it brings back the epic nature that was lost in the transition between 3rd edition and 4th edition. When I first played the 4th edition of Twilight Imperium, it felt like it was streamlined. Yeah, I know a lot of people say it was a good thing, but for me, it lost a lot of its epic nature. It seemed like it was slimmed down too much. It didn't feel like it was a complete experience, right? And Prophecy of Kings rectifies that and brings back that feeling of like an event game. Yeah, there's so much going on. There's so many things to do, so many options that you got, so many routes to victory now. You know, you're not just going to be making a beeline for Mechatol Rex or maybe focusing on technology. You've got all the exploration that you can do. You've got the extra technologies that you can research. You might just want to do 1 or 2 of them and then upgrade your ships and focus on some of the new objectives that are included, right? In my opinion, this is now back to where it was. It's now regained its crown as the event game of the year for us. And whilst it's not essential, but me being a greedy bastard, I just want there to be more. More! So what don't we like about Prophecy of Kings? So the first thing that we don't like about this is that there is loads and loads and loads and loads of more game effects for you to keep track of. And remember, if you go crazy on the technology and you get a load of those exploration cards and you unlock all of your commanders and you've got promissory notes to take care of, then there's just going to be hundreds and hundreds of different things that you've got to keep track of. And it can get a little bit bookkeepery if you allow it to get out of control, right? When I play this game, I try not to go apeshit on one specific thing, and while other people are taking their turn, I'll just sort of reevaluate the shit that's in front of me, right? But it's easy to forget about that when you're playing an 8-hour game of this, or maybe even 10 hours. As your brain becomes fatigued, it is easy to get lost in a sea of card effects, and there will be occasions where you will be cursing your luck because you forgot to activate technology, or you forgot to use the ability of your faction, right? So the next thing that we don't like about this game is that 7 to 8 players is absolutely insane. Okay, we do welcome the fact that it is an option, but really, is anybody really going to play with that? I know you fuckers at the back are saying, yeah, we play with 8 players all the time and it only takes 4 hours. Well, whoopity fucking do for you. I haven't got the table space for it, and I don't really know 7 or 8 people that would want to subject themselves to this kind of, I suppose in their eyes, torturous, hellish session in a torture chamber of gaming, right? So yeah, I suppose it is nice that they've got the pink and the orange, yeah, that will satisfy 2 polar opposites of gamers, right? really, to me, it was just sort of a waste of plastic because we're not going to play with 7 or 8 players, and I don't think many people out there are either, right? So the last thing that we don't like about this is that we love the game so much, we love this expansion so much that we're going to have to get a bigger fucking table next year, right? Because we only just managed to cram it all on, and even then it was a bit of a squeeze, yeah? When you're talking about the extra player boards, all the cards that are floating around, all the extra action cards, promissory notes, the commanders, the mechs, all the extra ships, all the stacks of technology cards and all that shit, then our 5.5 by 3.5 foot table just isn't going to cut it, right? So yeah, it's going to force us to invest in a new table, and whilst we've spent enough money on this, it is a bit of a massive table hog. It takes like an hour to set up, and it takes even longer to tear down, right? So just bear that in mind if you have an allergy to patience, right? So to summarise, is the Prophecy of Kings expansion worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we're going to say yes, absolutely. This is one of the best expansions that we have ever played, right? I can't imagine playing Twilight Imperium 4 without this. And the fact that it is an all-in expansion, whilst it did raise a few eyebrows when it was released, a lot of people did criticise Fantasy Flight for going down this road. It now makes absolute sense, right? If you were allowed to pick and choose what went in and what stayed out, the game wouldn't function correctly, right? But as it stands, the fact that you are forced to chuck everything in means that you're going to get one of the biggest, most grandiose, epic games ever created by a human being in the entire universe. So yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're not a big fan of Twilight Imperium, then this isn't really going to tickle your ballsack. But if you play Twilight Imperium at least once a year, then this is an essential expansion. You are going to have to get this. It completes the game for us. Whilst it's expensive, you really are going to get your money's worth over the course of your lifetime. That's if they don't release a 5th edition, right? Right? So there you go, that's Prophecy of Kings expansion for Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Remember, if you're new here, then consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. I'll see you next time.